Lando was really good, on reflection. Sometimes you got to take a step back away from the circumstance. Blue sky thinking. Drink it all in. Less than 12 hours after that first maiden voyage from Lando Norris, there are wrinkles that we've got to talk to as we talk about it, right? Could he have won without the safety car? I don't think so. He was too far behind. He said at the post-race press conference that he would have had to overtake Ferraris. He would have had to overtake Max Verstappen. That was never going to happen. That's not to say, though, that Lando wasn't super quick, even on that medium first stint. There are takeaways here for McLaren and for Lando Norris, being the fact that those upgrades have worked. They brought 10 of them to the Miami Grand Prix, braked at new front suspension, new rear suspension, and Zach Brown's talking about more to come at Imola. Charles Leclerc said at the post-race press conference that he knew at the outset that 2024 was going to be a season decided by the efficacy of upgrades. How quickly you can expedite for their institution and implementation. And McLaren have proven him correct, brought the upgrades and got them to work. They don't have correlation issues like Mercedes, which of course is a concern for the works Mercedes team, particularly now that McLaren have gotten up to speed and are the first team capable of challenging the RB20 in Max Verstappen's hands in earnest. Lest we forget that McLaren are a customer team of Mercedes. And the oldest story in F1 history is that you cannot win anything as a customer team. That's why the likes of Red Bull, as an example, have diverted all this resource, have put all this time and investment into developing their own power units for 2026. But I digress. This has to be about Lando Norris. We can't talk about 26 and the wrinkles that are coming down the pipeline, because this is Lando's day, for Pete's sake. But we do need to talk about safety car as an example, just as an example visual. You know what I mean? Because that safety car, surely, if we've learned from the mistakes of 2021 from a regulatory standpoint, surely that safety car needs to pick up Lando Norris. No, got to pick up the race lead. Why? Genuine non-rhetorical question here. Why did the safety car pick up Max Verstappen? This makes no sense. Now, I know it's a fantastic story, this Lando Norris first victory. F1 needed it. The F1 fan base needed it. Change has come through. And monotony is broken. A thing of the past, hopefully. But even with that notwithstanding, surely, we've got to ask questions of the FIA. Why did the safety car pick up Max Verstappen? It's got to pick up the race lead. This makes no sense. That the FI is still making these bloody mistakes as at May of 24. What are we even doing here? It's worked out well for F1. It has. But the rules and regs are there for a reason. They're meant to be followed to the letter of the law. Or else don't follow them at all. Why have them in the first instance? They're meant to be applied evenly across the board. And this makes me think of what Fernando Alonso said. Hanlon's razor is a thing. Never attribute to malice what you can attribute to stupidity. So when Alonso's talking all this anti-Spanish stuff, that Lewis Hamilton wasn't going to get a penalty for the turn 1 incident because he's not Spanish. Fernando, I think you've misread it. And the race instance with that safety car procedure is an example of that. A case in point indeed. The FIA are daft. They cannot institute their rules and regulations as they were supposed to, consistently across the board. They've never been able to. So Fernando, take a look at the race, chap, and understand what we're dealing with. The FIA, as a regulatory body, are case in point of Hanlon's razor. Never attribute to malice that which you can attribute to stupidity. But I digress. Are we giving Lando Norris that victory? Are we chalking it off because of that safety car? Well, let's be truthful and honest. But for that safety car, Lando Norris would have never won that race. That's just the truth. But with the safety car, you guys know already, sometimes we go motor racing. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes Latifi crashes and changes the complete complexion of a race circumstance, of a Grand Prix entire, or even of a championship. That is the gift and the curse of Formula One as a racing series. I can't help but reflect back on the post-race press conference and see Max Verstappen in particularly churlish mood. He said a couple of things, didn't he? Shall we reflect on them? At the outset, on face value, Max was very happy for his good mate Lando Norris. But I think if you scrape beneath that exterior, if you get beyond the very happy, outgoing surface of one Max Verstappen, or at least that's what he was showing us, I think there was something else going on with Max. I don't think he was happy. I think Max is a winning machine, and anytime he loses, he's not going to be happy. He's never going to be happy, despite the outward appearance, despite a smiley countenance. Max wasn't happy with that. In Max's brain, he's the best driver to ever have lived. And anytime he loses, he needs an explanation. What was the gap analysis? Why did I lose? And in the post-race press conference, he wasn't keen to attribute it to floor damage. That was Christian Horner's excuse. Christian said that turn 15 incident with the cone had damaged Max Verstappen's floor, and that's why he was struggling with the handling dynamic. The thing that Max Verstappen pivots off most frequently, the ability to get the car, the nose turned in. You remember Alex Albon talking about the sensitivity of that car, just how on the nose it is. Turn up your mouse sensitivity to 20 and you will see a similar thing. Well, Max didn't have that during the Miami Grand Prix, did he? And that's why he was complaining so frequently, often over the radio, about the handling dynamic. I can't get it to turn, said Max Verstappen. And that's the gift of the RB20, short corner settings per my guy Peter Windsor. And when you take that away from the RB20 in Max Verstappen's hands, it's no longer the god tier machine. He struggled. Now, what you want to attribute that to? Again, they're going to have to go away and deep dive this on Red Bull. They struggled for once. They weren't able to just drive down the road and catch up Lando Norris. Even post safety car, Lando Norris had speed in hand, gapping Max Verstappen to the tune of 0.2 a lap. That is bonkers. So then we know for a fact that the McLaren has pace. I will be keen to see at Imola normalised for circumstance and the handling dynamic that Max Verstappen loves, having a car once again that's super on the nose, whether we see a similar circumstance. I'm not sure whether Lando Norris will be driving away from one Max Verstappen next Grand Prix. Something tells me, my spidey senses tell me, not potentially. But Matt said a couple of things in the post-race conference. He talked about if, buts and maybes. The racing sometimes is just like that. The question was pitched at Lando and Max that but for the safety car, would Lando still have won? And Max responded, you know what? Racing is like that sometimes. Sometimes it works out for you. If my mom wasn't my mom, then she'd be my dad. What are we talking about, Max? And that's what I mean by his churlish nature, right? Laughing and joking, but I think deep inside, Max would have wanted to win that race. He is Max Verstappen. When somebody shows you who they are, you better believe them. But what did Lando do so well? A couple of things I think Lando did really, really well visual. I'll be honest. Firstly, again, to reiterate, luck is where preparation meets opportunity. He needed to be in that circumstance in the first place, and that necessitated a very long stint on the mediums. But for that, it wouldn't have worked out. Pirelli have been bringing for the longest time tyres which simply don't deg at the rate that we as F1 fans need them to. That also helped. You've got to factor that into the occasion. The safety car restart, by Lando's own admission, wasn't fantastic. He was rusty. Post-race presser, Lando said it's been a long while since I did a safety car restart from the front with Max Verstappen breathing down my neck. I said in real time that if Lando stood a chance of winning this race, two things need to happen. The first is that he needs to nail this safety car restart, and the second is that he needs for Charles Leclerc behind Max Verstappen to stick with Max Verstappen, to stay within that DRS window. Only one of those things happened, being Charles Leclerc sticking with Max Verstappen for the couple of laps ensuing post the safety car end, because Lando flopped the safety car restart. It wasn't great. He didn't go at the right time. He allowed Max to hustle him along, to get alongside him per an Abu Dhabi 21 safety car restart. I don't think it was great from Lando, but that again is testament to the fundamental pace of the McLaren that Lando was driving. Still managed to get it done. Still managed to gap Max Verstappen very quickly thereafter, which was curious. Who expected that to transpire like that? I didn't. I thought Lando was in trouble. What, with Max Verstappen behind him, safety car restart settings? You're having a laugh. No chance. If I were a betting man, there's no way I was going to bet on Lando Norris with pace, with safety car, with clean air in front of him to get that victory done. What, with Max Verstappen behind him? Behave yourself. No chance. Absolutely no chance. We've seen what Max Verstappen does to guys under safety car. They shrink up before him really hard to nail Max Verstappen under safety car. And then conversely, when he's leading the Grand Prix, so used to that circumstance is the Dutchman, the soon to be 4-time champion, that he just nails anybody behind him. He's caught Lando Norris napping a gazillion times under safety car restart. Lewis Hamilton too. Lando Norris said a couple of things actually. He talked about Sochi. And again, I felt like McLaren, even Ted Kravitz in his notebook, didn't want to talk about the S word. Sochi in 2021 obviously being Lando Norris's best chance at a race victory hitherto. People didn't want to bring that up or mention it as if it was a curse. But Lando Norris leaned into it in the press conference, spoke directly to it, saying something to this effect. You know what? We could have done better. I could have done better as a driver. And we could have been better as a team. He absorbed, he took responsibility, was keen not to absolve himself from it, which I think is key for Lando Norris, because his problem hitherto, erstwhile, has never been one of racecraft or pace. He's super quick, although granted he has made a couple of mistakes of late, trying to get up the outside of one Lewis Hamilton in China as an example. So people will question his racecraft. But his problem, the fundamental issue with Lando, why he hasn't been able to get it over the line thus far as frequently as people expect of a man of his talents, it's all mental for him, isn't it? It's all self-doubt and conquering that. A chap like Lando wants to go away and read Tony Robbins' Awakening the Giant Within. He needs that positive talk, right? He needs to reaffirm, because each and every single time at a race weekend, he's very negative. Oh, I don't know if I can do it. The car's not quick enough. And sometimes you get into this self-perpetuating negative cycle. Although Lando spoke to this during the post-race presser. Do you know what he said? This is interesting, and this might surprise some of you. Lando said that he's a glass half full type person and driver, and that nothing's going to change. That he needs that, in fact, to continue with his good performance. What? I've never heard anybody speak like that. Sometimes I have a tendency to downplay my own achievements and my possibility of repeating for those in future. And I spoke to somebody and he said to me, "No, Cameron, you need to change your language, chap." And I think Lando needs to change his language. The negativity is indeed a self-perpetuating thing. You hear high-level athletes talk about visualization and Conor McGregor. Like, these guys breathe their positive, their best performances into life. So I'm not sure. Listen, it works for Lando. If it works for Lando, then it works. If he continuing to talk in this negative light, if he can go on to win championships, then who am I to say? But I would love to hear positive Lando. And even in the post-race press conference, he's talking all this. Well, you know what? I'm not going to change. I'm a glass half full type driver, so I'm still going to talk negatively because that helps me. And that was surprising. I didn't expect to hear him talk like that. Not in the wake of his maiden Grand Prix victory. Bonkers. And then he talks about Donald Trump, having him in the garage race, and it was a privilege. They spoke post-race. Obviously, Donald keen to get the opportunity, the PR with the winner. Donald told Lando that he was indeed his lucky charm. See you next Grand Prix, Donald, at Imola, eh? Mohammed bin Salim too, keen not to miss a gold star PR opportunity. Always wants to be pictured with the bloody winner. Before Mohammed bin Salim, you go away and sort out your safety car procedure. What are we doing, FIA? Say for the avoidance of doubt, what are we doing here? $1 billion sport, the best motorsports formula in the world, the upper echelons of Mohammed bin Salim and his FIA cronies still can't sort out a safety car procedure, lest we forget 2021, lest we forget Monza a couple of years back. What are we doing? Honestly, the FIA, they are lucky that the outcome was positive this weekend at the Miami Grand Prix. You saw Greg Maffei, head honcho of Liberty Media, super happy, super positive that we got a new winner and an exciting Grand Prix in the United States at Miami. It's perfect for them. But I can't help but think, I don't want to say it's manufactured. I don't want to say it's manipulated, because the mafia will come for me. But it feels dodgy, doesn't it? Why did the safety car not pick up Max Verstappen? But I digress. F1 is techie. I'm left this Monday morning feeling a bit conflicted, if I'm honest. I am absolutely enthused that Lando got his first victory. No longer does he have that monkey on his back. Nobody can doubt that fella going forward. I don't want to hear any talk about Oscar Piastri being quicker or a better driver than Lando Norris. Not going forward until he wins himself a couple of Grand Prix, which will happen soon hereafter. But what I don't want to hear, I don't want to hear about F1 being the greatest sport in the world anymore, because we have issues that we need to fix in short order. And the positive news story, that is Lando Norris's first victory, sadly for me, with my pessimistic cap very firmly on, cannot paint over the fact that the FIA dropped the ball yesterday. They've been dropping the ball. That it was a positive outcome for F1 fans all around the world. For Lando Norris getting his first victory, sadly for me, cannot distract from the point. And this point is this, that the FIA dropped the ball again yesterday. Their processes need to be fixed. They are not robust. They are not sufficiently comprehensive for the sport that is F1. And they need to address that soon-ish. They should have addressed it back in the day. They've had years to address it. Just the fact that Max Verstappen's been dominant and it's been monotonous, again, papering over cracks. Not good enough, FIA. And Mohammed bin Salim has the cheek to seize the opportunity, a cheeky PR positive with first-time race winner Lando Norris all over the chap post-race like a rash. What are we doing, MBS? Nonsense, to the point where Lando's trying to shoo you away and say, please, let me have my moment. MBS is an absolute joke. I cannot wait for the end of next year for his tenure to come to an end and for people to vote him out. This is nonsense. But I digress. The prosecution rests. No further questions, Your Honour.